the original name of the podcast was going to be called Think Like a Rapper because I wanted to expand the idea that so much of what we have all learned, you on the marketing grassroots side, me on the artist side, producer side, so much of it is essentially a MBA business school education with real world experience that you can replicate in a ton of different avenues. Let's get it started.
Double O.
Free range, motherfucker. What's going on, world? It is Double O, and you are back with a new episode of Free Range. We made it to number 7 already. This week we have on the podcast my homie Jay Nicholson, a.k.a. GoodReverendDr. I met him years ago as Kidz In The Hall was really beginning its journey in the music space. We met at a show down in Philly, and then later on we would work together while he was at Cornerstone Marketing, and we were signed to Duck Down. He was extremely important, along with the rest of the 1200 Squad department, which is Cornerstone's mix show department, in getting our records on the radio. He was responsible for getting DJ Enough to play Driving Down the Block during the drive home hour, in getting Funkmaster Flex to drop bombs on it. And so we sit down and talk about his upbringing a little bit, how he was fired and rehired back at Cornerstone, and dip into what I think is the crux of the podcast, which is marketing 101, especially in 2019, for a lot of young artists, and what they may be able to glean from his insights in all these years in the industry, working with Chance, working with Kanye, working with us, working with The Roots, and how they can apply it to their own careers. So tune in. You can follow him at GoodReverendDr on everything. Jay Nicholson. Here we go. Thank you for coming to the Free Range podcast, young Jay.
I feel very privileged to be a part of the young.
I feel like I've had so many conversations with people while getting drunk in random parts of the club that I figure I just record them and start.
Speaking of which, when you tagged me in that photo a few weeks ago, with you and your brother hitting the beer bomb, I forgot all about that night.
Yeah, do you remember, for those that know, before we get to don't know, if you follow me on Instagram, GoDouble, I posted a picture from, was that the occasion, from the Kidz In The Hall Occasion album release party, I think?
Yes, it was.
Do you remember, it was like a wine or it was a liquor brand that I feel like, I wish I remember.
I think it was Bushmills.
Nah, it was before those campaigns started. It was like, I want to say there was like a local craft wine or something like that was Cornerstone was repping at the time. I want to say it was like black, not White Rabbit, black. It was something.
Oh,
you kind of remember, right?
Yeah, I do remember. You're right.
Yeah, so it was one of those things, but I remember we just tried to turn it into a frat party. I was also trying to find, and I'm going to find it for another Throwback Thursday, it's funny because I feel like it's the first it's pretty much, I think I met you during the first ever Kidz In The Hall performance on the East Coast, which was that the show that we had at the Electric Factory in Philly.
Philly, yeah.
With like Common.
Mm-hmm.
who was it? It was Common, it was us, and then it was
Keisha Cole?
Starts with a K. Exactly. Why couldn't I remember that? It was like I kept wanting to say Keisha Shantae, and I was like, that's not her name. What am I doing? Yeah. So it was like Keisha Cole came, and yeah, that was the first time we connected, and it was a toy that you had us.
Yeah, I was working with Sprite, and they had the figurine. I don't want to call it a doll, but it was a figurine. It wasn't an action figure, but it was a figurine. And I had you guys take pictures with what was his name?
I don't remember. I got to go as soon as I find the picture. We'll be able to answer all these questions. But
I got the picture. Y'all was sitting there. Oh, what was his name? I feel so bad, yo. I got Moni Love to take a picture with that joint.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely post. I know where the picture is, so I'll post it in the whatever in the comments of the whole thing, and we'll be able to figure it out. But yeah, so I've known your ass for a long time. In doing research, I didn't realize. I mean, I guess it's always been a natural progression, but I didn't realize that you actually went to school for audio engineering before any of this kind of like of you in the marketing world came to be.
Yeah, I went to Five Towns College out in Long Island. I was actually in school with Adam Levine.
Like that's hilarious.
He went to the same school. DJ Sus One on Power 105. He was in the same school. DJ Reg West. It was a lot of talented people in our school. Olivia was in my class. It was a lot of talented, musicians out there. But yeah, I double majored. I did because I did video production and audio.
So what led you then to make the because that's a pretty stacked just set of people involved. What made you shift into the marketing space then, like right after that, instead of just like pursuing the musical side of it straight out the gate?
Well, to keep it 100, I left that school because my grades were low, and I wanted to get them up before I went back. And I would only show up there to gamble. Like we would shoot CeeLo during club hour while I was going to Nassau Community College. And while I was going to Nassau Community College, which is right next door to Hofstra, shout out to DJ whatever went to Hofstra, I would go there, but I was working. I got a job at Nassau Community College in the marketing department, and my tutor was the head of marketing. So I was spending a lot of time just talking to him and talking to the people that was, that were there. And I'm like, this is it. And then there was one time the Roots did a show at the school, and everybody just jumped all on my tip when they figured out that I knew the Roots. When they showed up and performed, and I went up and talked to them, everybody wanted me to do, do stuff for them or help with the clubs. So I just kind of stuck with that. And then before I didn't graduate. I took the job first.
Yeah. So you took the job at Nassau, or you took the job at Cornerstone?
No, I took the job. No, I took a job with the Roots.
Oh, okay. So straight out of that, you get it with the.
Straight out of that, I got a job. I was running the East Coast promo for OK Player
with young Dan.
No, I was before Dan.
Really?
Yeah, I was there before Dan. I was working strict with shout out to Angela Nissel and Tariq and Amir.
For those youngins that don't know, OK Player, it still exists, but okplayer.com was a thing that called a message board and a blog back in the days of those things, where before Twitter existed, when you wanted to be angry, you would get in a message board, create a topic, and just go in on it. And when I was talking to Tanya Morgan, Don Will, so much of their formation in their early promotion happens on OK Player. Same thing for Little Brother. For us as well, Knowledge and I, when we were both working day jobs, we created like 7 or 8 different fake accounts. And so one of the fake accounts would post like, yo, you ever heard of this group Kidz In The Hall? And then you'd have another fake account that would jump in and talk about it. And then our real accounts would talk about it. And it was just this hilarious scheme that we tried to create to at least get a couple posts going to create a level of fake legitimacy so that when people jumped into the thread, they'd be like, oh, something is going on.
That's actually how I found out about everybody you just mentioned, including yourself. From going, I never went to any of the other boards, only went to the lesson. That was the one that was talking about rap. So I would go to that. And that's where I got my moniker from. My name was the Good Reverend Dr. J on OK Player. And shout out to Ozzie Davis. May he rest in peace. Ruby D. You know what I'm saying? Oh, thank you, sir.
But going back to that time, what was your AOL Instant Messenger name though?
Oh, it was Good Reverend Doctor.
Oh, okay. So you had it all. It was all together.
It was all. Yo, I was watching the day I had to come up with the name. I happened to be watching Jungle Fever, and I just thought it was so ill that nobody is calling this guy by his name. His wife called him the Good Reverend Doctor. She said, "You better not touch the Good Reverend Doctor's TV." And I'm like, "Wow, this is your husband. You're not even calling him his name." And then Wesley Snipes said, that's the Good Reverend Doctor's TV. And I'm like, oh, okay, this nigga's ill. Like you as Bernie Mac would say, may he rest in peace. I just went with it. I just thought it was cool, Good Reverend Doctor, because I feel like that's what I am.
No, I feel you. And it's funny because it's, in hindsight, I'm sure you're probably looking at it as like, it's like, man, who knew that it would be brand building back then? Like you were just trying to pick a cool screen name.
Yeah.
And now,
that's all I wanted.
And now it's like producer name, how people know you throughout the social media world, which is oftentimes the real world. And it's just like, oh yeah.
I'll drink to that.
Yeah, I feel you. You're drinking way earlier than me, but it's almost 2. I might start drinking soon as well. But so to get back to it, so you were with the Roots and OK Player. So how long were you over there?
I worked there for a few years. I was doing lots of campaigns for them, mostly like the street team stuff. I was promoting a show they had called Black Lily, which was at the Wetlands on Hudson and Late in Manhattan, and then they had Black Lily in Philly at the
real quick, because I think I know a lot of people now, even when I talk to them in real life, don't know about it. Can you go in a little bit and explain what the Black Lily was? And because I think a lot of people don't actually even know it existed.
Well, the Black Lily was more of a celebration of women who were artists showcasing their art in this form of music. And there were so many artists that came through. I mean, Mary Ben-Ari got her look from performing at Black Lily. The Jazzy Fat Nasties, Jaguar Wright.
Yeah, Jill.
Yo, I got a song recorded. I used to record all these shows on a tape player that I used for class. And I remember recording a show that Jill did. And
Jill Scott, by the way, we were talking about Jill Scott.
Yeah, Jilly from Philly. She did a song about she was like, I had a dream. I was trapped in my mother's womb, and this is what came out. And I recorded that song, and I played it for her like a week later or 2 weeks later, and we've been like best friends ever since. Because she couldn't believe that people were that interested in her and what she was saying. But it's too many artists to name. I mean, I have a song called I could send you this too. It's called "Life Is Good," and it's Most Def and Common freestyling with his band, a black girl named Becky, which I think is a fire name for a band. But they did a song called "Life Is Good," and I was able to capture it. And when I played it, I played it for Common in the studio at Electric Lady one day, and he was like, "I can't believe you got this." And it was just a celebration of women in art and music at Wetlands. But then they moved to Philly. They did some in DC, but I was in charge of promoting all of this stuff.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I've actually been, because I've been working with a lot of women now, Nikki Jean primarily, and we've had a lot of discussions because she was
cookies, man.
Take that up with her. But we've been talking about it, that it feels like that sort of vibe is necessary, especially now, with everything that's going on, that has been going on over the last year. But even just a really safe and powerful space for women adjacent to the expanding world of hip hop, and a place where they can. There's a couple of ideas that I've been to. There's something that's called the Clituation that's going on in Minneapolis, and that's a really dope party. But yeah, there is something that I'd love to see kind of come out of the original ideas of Black Lily that I think could be extremely dope. So you were with the Roots for a couple of years, and then it couldn't have been that long before we end up linking. So that you would have had to have just started working probably at Cornerstone around that time, right? And you're talking, that's like 2000.
Oh yeah, that was
2006.
I started working there in 2003.
Okay.
As an intern, and then I worked the mailroom, and then I was fired, and then I was rehired to work in the mix show department, where I had a chance to work records with.
Yo, but why'd you get fired?
Oh, because I was at the same time I was working there. I was working at 411. For a lot of young listeners who don't know what 411 is, before Google,
I don't know what 411 is.
Well, before Google, you dialed 411 on your phone to find out stuff.
Oh, you mean legitimately 411? I thought you were talking about some cool marketing company. You're talking about actual 411.
411 on your cell phone for Nextel, AT&T, and Sprint. So if you dialed it would AT&T Connect. This is Jay. How may I help you? Nextel 411. This is Kevin. How may I help you? You know, I was that guy. And while I was there, that's when I came across the internship. It was an internship at Atlantic, and I had such a crush on Joy Brown that I just wanted to work with her. And then when I didn't get the internship with Atlantic, somebody there was like, "Yo, what do you know about Cornerstone?" And I said, "I don't know anything. I've never heard of them." And then next thing you know, I'm over there, and it's crazy because the people there were a lot of people that crossed paths when I was interning. Like, I didn't know who Diplo was until like a couple of years ago, because I was just like, "Wait, is that Wes?" And Wes was interning with me at Cornerstone.
That's funny.
Wes and I don't know his name, but Dr. Luke also. We hired him. Yeah. We hired him as an intern. It was a lot of moving parts. And one of the first things, my first project was Through the Wire, Kanye West.
That's ill. But how did you get fired?
Oh, because I didn't want to work every day.
But you're an intern. What do you mean you just didn't want to work every day?
I had the 411 job that was overnight. So it was like choose either or, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna go with the one that's paying me.
Yeah.
And then I ended up getting fired from 411. So they offered me, they gave me my internship back, and I would shout out to Chris Atlas, SVP at Warner Brothers. He was able to get me a job promoting records in the mix show department.
That's hilarious. You have a lot of your early life is a is a string of either getting almost kicked out of school or leaving school, fired. What's going on? Oh, you got kicked out.
I got kicked out of school. I did.
Why? What was going on, son? What was going on? Why?
I got kicked out of school because of my grades.
No, I know, but all of this string of madness that was happening. Clearly, you didn't get fired by the root, so that's a positive thing.
No, I didn't.
Was it just that you were trying to just figure out where you needed to kind of like be, or you just didn't feel like working hard? Anything like?
No, I was just just chasing what I thought would be the right idea. Hard work never steered me away. Like I don't care. Like I've stayed up 3 or 4 days straight working on campaigns and stuff. And it just, some things rub people the wrong way. But, if we had to drive Amir to go mix the Common album or or whatever that was, or whatever it was, I was prepared, to do. And that was,
Yeah. So you get back. So you get fired and you're an intern, and then you get rehired as an intern at Cornerstone, or in a different position.
Well, I was fired as the mailroom guy. And then I got rehired as an intern.
Okay. And then you get, of course, the seismic shift that is Kanye West is the first thing that you get to work, and you're working through the wire at Mix Show.
Yep.
Now
and Don C used to show up every day looking crazy, wearing these big Chanel coats with the big C on the collar, and he would be there all the time, man. And I don't know, I could tell a gazillion Ye stories, but yeah.
Now I'm sure. Now I have this is just me nerding out for a second, but indulge me. So I have a theory that if Slow Jams doesn't come out, that his trajectory, at least initially, is very different, because I don't feel like Through the Wire was working well until Slow Jams came out and then became a hit. And then it was kind of like Slow Jams was out. Then I want to say was it the Alicia record that was also out? Yeah, I feel like there was it was one of those things where Through the Wire was kind of like, oh yeah, this is cool. But then it became a bigger thing when Slow Jams became a massive hit. But you could tell me if I'm wrong in that.
You are 100% correct, because Through the Wire did not work well at all. People were like, who is this guy? Why is he makes beats? Why is he rapping? What is this shit? And I'm gonna tell you what changed it, yo. And this is what made him an honorary heavy hitter. When they used to have the Mix Show Power Summit down in Puerto Rico or DR, I forget where it was. He went there during this time, and he was sitting on a panel, and I don't even know what the panel was about, but I do know that he just sat there and he was like, when a question came up and he said, yo, I'm Kanye West. I got a song called Through the Wire that's out right now. There's 300 DJs in here right now. If y'all could all just play my record once, it would make a big difference to me. Shout out to all y'all. Thank you. And after that, it was a wrap. Next thing I know, Enough made him an honorary heavy hitter, and he took off. And then that Twister joint
Yeah.
That Twisted joint definitely elevated his statue. One thing I remember clearly is a moment when he came through. We used to do phoners. Like, you did them with us. You come through, talk to the DJs on the phone or whatever. And we did that with him, and he wasn't with it. And I don't mean to call him this, but the shortest guy in our office, shout out to TNT, when Kanye said he wasn't willing to do these phoners, all I saw was TNT stand up and say, "Hey, yo, word up," and he slammed the door. I walked around, and 3 minutes later, Kanye was sitting at Chris Atlas's desk with his feet up, rapping "Jesus Walks" to like 40 DJs with no problem. And I'm like, what did he say to him, yo?
Yo, shouts to TNT. The first time I walked into the Cornerstone office, he was telling me some crazy stuff. I mean, two of TNT and Shucky, shouts to
man,
Shucky Ducky, Duck Down. Like, when you meet them for the first time, and this was me coming back, having lived in LA at that point now for probably like 3 or 4 years, so got real used to being very laid back and chilling, and you go back and you meet, you're like, oh, these dudes are still in 92 ideals, 10 years later, New York City. I'm like, all right. It's an amazing thing to see. It's an amazing thing to witness. But it was definitely like a reality check. Like, oh yeah, I'm back in New York now. Okay, cool. Like this is what I needed when I made the move back. But yeah, obviously there are stories there that are forever with Cornerstone. But in that, since I was around during that time, obviously your role began to evolve. So you were in the intern space, and then you ended up in kind of the 1200 squad, which was the mix show side. Mix show, for people that don't know, is basically when you're not in, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when you're not in a BDS, which is when you're not actually playlisted at radio, the step under that is essentially mix show, where when artists are trying to break records, they will go to DJs, like he was just saying, do those DJ phoners, do drops, do everything that they have to do to get to build relationships with DJs in places, so that when you're on the drive time mix, or when you're in a morning mix, or even in the midday mix or nighttime, they will drop your record here and there. Is that basically kind of like the loose definition of mix show? Because I know it was expanding during that time, because then all of a sudden satellite radio pops up and all of that, and that's a whole different space.
Yeah, loosely that is. I mean, a mix show is basically the part of the radio that you're listening to that's not that's included into a regular program show, but not programmed itself. So there's usually 4 mix shows a day. You got the one at like six. There's one at like 6 a.m, and then there's one during 9, and then there's one at noon, and then there's one usually at 4 or 5. And this is at every station across the nation. And then there's another one around 7. And those are the times where you were able to get records broken. And that's what I was hired to do.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So you were there. I mean, you were a Cornerstone for years, obviously, and then eventually you decide to leave, right? And when you do leave, what made you? Were you just done with it, or you felt like you needed to expand what you were doing in the marketing space? Like, what made you make that decision?
Well, I was unaware that I was leaving. if that makes sense.
There we go. There we go.
And when it happened, it just opened a lot of other doors of things that I've been working with. Like some, a lot of my clients were just hitting me up directly and not hitting them up. They were hitting me, and I got to, work on some tours. Like we worked with Chance. Chance is as a big of an artist as he is because of the work that we put in, like the poster campaigns that we put in at colleges for him and things like that, to, the Amy Winehouse documentary, we were responsible for. And when I say we, I'm talking about 5 people, Jenna, Alvin, Zena, myself, but we we helped just spread the word about that, and it like I never thought I would be helping someone win an Oscar, and which is crazy to me.
So all that stuff pretty much happens after you leave, or that happened while you were there on the tail?
While I was leaving, while I was getting left. When
they changed the locks on you.
Yeah, changed the lock, changed my office, left me at the bus stop, all that, yo.
You were one of the rare people there that had an office, that had a door that closed. A lot of it was open office at the time.
Yeah, man. I mean, everybody that came there, every artist that showed up there wanted to come through our doors just to see like what's going on in here. And when they walked through those doors and looked in our office and said, "Oh, I want to hang out here. This is where I want to be."
Yeah, you had it curated extremely well. I know even for me, when I would come and hang out on that side of the building, full disclosure, Duck Down was also on the same floor of Cornerstone and continues to work a lot together. But it was a way for me, to pick your brain about all manner of weird marketing ideas and things as I was trying to figure out how to make us bigger and more famous. But it also was just kind of like a really cool, inspirational, interesting spot. And what I did notice is that you always had the table set up. Obviously, you were definitely from the mix show side. So what led you back into like really like DJing out? Like
DJing has always been in, what I wanted to do. That was my first dream of being, it was to be a DJ. And then it was to be, some sort of producer of some sorts. And I tried it both, but I never let them know that I did those. They know, like nobody knew that I DJ. And ironically, I DJ'd the Cornerstone holiday party this year. Well, in December.
Full circle.
Last year. And I see people now and they're still like, "Yo, this guy tore this shit up." And I didn't even have turntables. I just had records, and I just began Cornerstone really helped me just develop my record collecting really, and showing how I could make relationships work for me. Cause my 6 degrees of separation all got cut to like 1 once I started working there.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was one of those places that, if you were in the sphere of that, it really, it definitely cut down. You didn't know who was going to be in the office. Brands were all competing to kind of be a part of whatever was going on. So immediately all that stuff kind of got cut down, and obviously the DJs involved. And it was a point. If you were in that office, you were the conduit for everything else coming in and out of the office, which I'm sure just made the Rolodex super crazy. What with all the artists, all the DJs, all the brands, all that stuff that have come through there, what do you think, as people are coming up, what do you think the biggest, let's say, 2 or 3 things are that artists, DJs, whatever, that everybody seems to get wrong about marketing themselves when they're first starting or even experience?
Well, I could say, first off, they think that posting a lot about themselves is going to gain them notoriety. And that's not true. It's posting the right things about yourself that will gain you notoriety. You don't have to post everything. Like your whole life doesn't have to be online. Like there has to be some mystery. That's what made rap dope, because you didn't know everything about the rappers. I would say just doing the knowledge and looking at your predecessors. Like you don't ever want to disrespect them by saying something crazy and then doing something crazy and then putting it out, and now you look crazy. As people are like, oh, they did that already.
But don't you think that with the era of trolling, that all attention is good attention in the end? Or do you think that all those rules still apply, that eventually you will get it won't benefit? Do you think that you can jump out in a negative sort of trolling space and then shift to like, oh no, I'm a legitimate rapper now, as long as you know how to gain attention, or artist in general, not even just rapper? Or do you think it still has to adhere by certain rules? Because that's the way it kind of sounds like you're saying, is that there are certain rules that still apply. But
I mean, the number one rule is really no biting allowed.
But is that true though? Like, I feel like it doesn't feel that has been true for the last couple of years, because success is almost connected to the fan feeling like they can do the thing that the person is doing on stage. Therefore, they're close enough to it that they like them. And if they ever wanted to become then the star, they can just kind of repeat that process. Like, it feels like we're in a different space now, where the idea of biting is a 90s ideal, because there are a million rappers that sound pretty much the same now, and they're all finding a certain level of success. So yeah, like, is that really true for marketing right now?
I believe it's true. I mean, there are simple basic rules in marketing in general and in rap. And if you just look at it from a marketing standpoint, so you're gonna come out and put out the same product. It's not like it's Pepsi and Coke. You're not as good, but you're trying. Your aspirations are to be as good, but you don't quite cut the mark. So I just feel like they should just be themselves. And if you're not that nice, work until you could be that nice.
Yeah, you'll never be able to be better than the thing that you're trying to copy anyway. So might as well be an original version of you, basically, because that's the only thing that that you have complete creative control over.
Like one of the best examples of it, I was just explaining to my homeboy the other day, and I'm like, yo, the first time I heard Migos was on a Q song. I don't know if you know Q from Atlanta, QUE. So he had a song called Young Nigga, and it had Migos on it. Yo, this song rings off. It still does. But this was the first time I ever heard Migos on it. And ever since I heard that record, it sounds like everybody is trying to rap like that, which is, I mean, that's cool, because if that's what you like, but you're not going to get an identity rapping like somebody else.
Yeah, no, I feel you. So what do you think about, like, where do you see marketing now in 2019? Do you think all the same rules still apply in terms of originality, in terms of curating the right kind of content, but keeping a level of mystery? What would you recommend for somebody who is just starting out, the things to focus on outside of the music, in order to find some sort of differentiating and cutting through the noise?
I would just say focus on being who you are. Like it's You know, like Nas said, no idea is original. There's nothing new under the sun. It's not what you do, it's how it's done. And how you present yourself is gonna, this is you showcasing yourself. So if you want to showcase yourself as mimicking previous artists and other things, that's cool, because we're all doing that. I believe that you're a reflection of whatever it is you listen to. So you're mimicking that, but it's just how you do it. And I would just tell them, you know, take a serious look at what your output is and who do you have running this, if it's not you.
Yes, sir. Hope you are enjoying the gems that Jay Nicholson is dropping from inside the game. You know, talking a lot about authenticity, or rather being true to yourself. I still think even in a world where it seems like that's not the case, it is the easiest way and easiest lane to murder, because you can only be you, you know? I also thought that Kanye story was extremely interesting because it was just straight up an ask. He straight up just asked strangers to play his joints, and they did. Well, I think a lot of times artists and creatives are really afraid to ask for things because they don't want to feel like they're begging. But sometimes the ask is all that's necessary to make the shit move forward. Just take that into account. Back to it. Just to talk even specific, because I'm a nerd about this shit. Let's go specifically even to like the Chance campaign. So when you were involved during the 3 campaign when they were doing those buy $10 for, you know, pay $10 for like a certain amount of posters and then post them up in the areas, that stuff? Or were you even in before that?
I was involved at that point, but not, I didn't know the specifics. I more or less was just picking out cities where this should happen. But most recently I went on the tour that he was on and did the same thing. But while we were in these cities, you know, I would take note as to how people were responding to what we were doing. And I did the same thing for Shy Glizzy this year. Shout out to DC. We were doing the exact same thing for Shy Glizzy because he's a bubbling rapper out of DC. But it's about your messaging and how you convey that message and how you conduct yourself to the masses. You know, how you conduct yourself personally is different, but how you conduct yourself to the masses is what matters.
It's interesting. As I've started the podcast, I've had a few young artists reach out, whether it be, you know, music, fashion, all of that, and they have a lot of questions about how to scale, obviously. And I'm glad it feels like I'm giving them, hopefully, proper advice, because what I always try to tell them is, the internet is this very large and amazing global space, and finding success in that is obviously what everybody wants to do, but really focusing in and really still having a real life, real world component to your marketing is still the bread and butter of, at least part of the bread and butter of finding success. Like, you need to be able to, people need to know who you are, whether it be locally or regionally, by actually seeing you. So, and it seems like that's the same thing that you're saying with some of these poster campaigns. It's just like, oh, they see the actual, you know, seeing a picture of you even locally still matters.
Yeah, if you're rolling through DC and, you know, you go down U Street and you see a whole wall with Shy Glizzy, like, so many people were coming up like, oh, I heard of this guy. Who you know, is he performing? Or I'm like, nah, this is a new album coming out. And they would, you know, we were genuinely getting involved with consumers that wanted to see what was up with this artist. And I feel like that'll never change. Because I used to put, you know, I used to do snipes on the on the street lamps in downtown. Yeah. Oh yeah, my first internship ever was at Bad Boy. I lasted one day.
Did you get arrested, or did you just say fuck that?
I said fuck that, but I got arrested probably like 3 weeks later.
For putting snipes up.
For putting snipes up. They said, well, they didn't arrest me. They said, yo, the cops came and said, yo, you got to go back and take all of them down. If you don't, you're going to jail.
So again, for those that don't know, if you ever are driving around and you're at an event or you're, you know, there's something coming to your city and you see like a bunch of posters that are stapled up to either like just around the, lights up on walls,
lampposts. That was the easiest one because I could pre-staple a bunch of them, like 4 or 5 of them, and then as soon as we get to the lamppost, like a bum 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 bum, and then out of nowhere it's 5 posters.
Slide them up, yeah,
slide
it up. Yeah, now that's and it still works all these years later. From you talking that's 20 plus years of hip hop marketing 101, and it still connects.
Yeah, we do that in multiple cities and still do it to this day.
Yeah, no. So it's great to hear that that's still rocking, and for everybody listening that's trying to always figure out how to scale their ideas, real life still works. If you have to throw a show, throw a party locally, and having people support is such an important component of building your identity. And when you look at all these groups, whether it be ASAP, whether it be, YBN, obviously all of the TDE guys, the ones that really connect, Chance and Save Money, Vic Mensa, like all of them, I watch them do it. So it's a little different. But if you look at all of them, they all have a hometown really like connected and scaled audience that people don't always realize that a lot of those numbers that you see on the internet, if you were to locally break them down, so many of them are probably in like a very specific area. And that's usually the area where those people were spending their time being real people. And you can build hardcore support from that.
That's actually the key.
No, definitely, and that's across the board. Making like if you're making clothes, if you're rapping, if you're producing and trying to figure stuff out, like whatever it is, if you have a coffee shop, if you have whatever you're trying to do, my whole mantra. It was originally what the original name of the podcast was going to be called "Think Like a Rapper." because I wanted to expand the idea that so much of what we have all learned, you on the marketing grassroots side, me on the artist side, producer side, so much of it is essentially a MBA business school education with real world experience that you can replicate in a ton of different avenues. Yeah. That's what Cornerstone was based on. It was based on like, okay, Reebok wants to do this, so let's take these tactics that have worked in this music space, in this grassroots space, and connect the dots and make that thing work for Reebok, or make that thing work for Sprite, or make that work for, whoever. Yeah. But in terms of tactics that still matter and still work and are still relevant now, in terms of mix show and in terms of radio, what are your thoughts on that? Like, do you think that it'll make it through the next 5 years? Do you think there's going to be a resurgence in terms of like the power of radio? Or do you think, I have my own thoughts, but I feel like it's evolving. But let me know what you think about the whole space, because that's where you spend a ton of your time in.
And I still do. I have projects that I'm actively working to mix show, and I think it will last forever, as long as there is terrestrial radio. it's going to last. You know, satellite radio, that's a different thing. But the average person who doesn't know anything about some of these artists will just tune into anything. And it's like how we present it in front of them is going to make the difference. I think it's really important that we continue working with people such as myself and working with the DJs and getting good music out to the masses, because I don't think some electronic beeper should determine that.
How do you think DJs could be better at re-engaging the audience and becoming true gatekeepers again? I think that's, when we talk about where the issues are with radio, that's really kind of the issue, is that you don't have, whether it be because of the corporate side of it or whether it be because just people, it's harder to move and really know what's happening. How do you think DJs could re-engage in terms of breaking records? Or is it an impossibility because everybody can figure out what they like extremely faster than anybody else can be involved?
Well, I don't think it's impossible at all. I think it's still a viable source of finding out about music depending on who the DJ is. And I feel that liability is up to the DJ to be able to present material that can raise eyebrows and have people thinking like, oh, this is this what it is? Like, is this thing? Because their bosses, that's all they care about. Oh, is this it? Is this it? Is this the hot joint? Okay, cool. Like, that's all they care about. But DJs, I feel like as a DJ, it's your responsibility to show people the parts of music that you don't hear, that's not that right, like, or not diagnosed as that right away. I think they just need more time, honestly.
Yeah, I think we're in such an interesting space, because I do think that there are places that I still go to listen to, like Annie Mac, which is, like I still listen to her radio show, and Diplo as well. I feel like they've done a really good job, and maybe it's because they're doing it on the BBC and not necessarily on through an iHeart station or through MS or whatever. But there still is this feeling that when I turn on their records, I'm gonna hear something new that I've never heard, or their shows rather. I'm gonna hear something new that I never heard that might be really awesome to put into the mix. And there still is like this feeling that, I have, like I said, of times past where they are really excellent gatekeepers of creating at least a cultural conversation around some of these songs. I mean, especially Diplo, because obviously he's been able to do it through everything, through the label, through his festivals. Like, he's always trying to push and break new records, new ideas, new artists, new cultural conversations with music. And I think more DJs could take note and try to be a little bit more forward thinking. Because otherwise, it's really easy, and I'm sure as an actual, when you're in the club, and I experience it too, by the time 11:45 comes around, it's really easy to phone it in.
Mm-hmm.
The next 30 songs that are going to kill regardless, and any DJ can play it. But it's really on on every single individual DJ, whether it be at radio or whether it be at the club, to say, let me try to throw something interesting in. Let me try to throw a curveball and see what happens. Let me see if this record works here, because I really like it and I want to support it.
And that's the key. Like, having more people like that's willing to take the chance on something that they like, because you don't. I mean, at least for me, like, I didn't become a DJ because I wanted to hear everything that because I cared about the music so much, and I wanted to be able to display what I think about it the most. and it may not always align with everybody else's playing. You know, it like there's records like I have a radio show now, WUSB.FM, Stony Brook University, every Monday night, 12 midnight to 3 a.m. And whenever I play, people are always calling up like, yo, what was that joint? What was this? What was that? Because I'm not playing the typical joints that everybody else is playing. You know, I'll take a risk on something that I like, or just I'll play just whatever I like.
Yeah.
And I more people are afraid of that. They're afraid of the backlash.
Well, I mean, there's nothing worse than clearing the dance floor. Let's be real. You don't want to. The fear is always like, oh man, I had it, and then I sent them all a drink because I played a record at either the wrong record at the wrong time or even the right record at the wrong time, and it didn't work, and it didn't keep the vibe going, and so there always is a dangerous game we play.
That's never happened, thank God. But
no, I feel you. Sometimes I do it on purpose, but I only do it at the end. I'm one of those super old school DJs that I love to play. I love to get super R&B at like a certain point where it's just like, yep, I'm slowing this all the way down.
You know what made me believe in that whole idealism is one time many years ago, showing my age, I was at APT and Rich Medina threw on the acapella of Shy, If I Ever Fall in Love Again, at 3:30 in the morning. And I'm thinking this is a Clear the Club song. Everybody stayed and sung it.
Yeah.
And I said, it's with feeling, man. It's like whatever whatever you're feeling.
If you have, you got to be able to take those chances in an educated way, and that just comes with,
But I couldn't believe
for a long time.
3:30 in the morning, everybody sitting there. If I ever again, I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, are you serious? I'm like, there's no need. There's not even a beat. Ever.
Sometimes you don't need a beat.
Again. I'll be sure that. All right.
Hey, yo, that shit is great, man. On that note, let's close it right there. Hopefully we drop some jewels for some youngins. Hopefully they can remember to attack your area and your neighborhood. What up?
I got plenty more. Plenty more gems, yo. Holler at the Good Reverend Doctor.
Yes, please follow him at GoodReverendDr or DR on all the platforms. Message him on AIM if you still have AOL Instant Messenger somewhere. I'm sure that fool still has a Yahoo address, so GoodReverendDr at Yahoo.com.
Yahoo is Bamboo 799, son. And I got that. Bamboo.